What kind of guy is Jed Rakoff?
Well, he's a very bright, very aggressive, very serious judge, takes his job seriously. And what he did in this case, however, was he simply applied quite ordinary logic to the situation. I dare say that a small minority of federal judges would have looked at this deal as realistically and critically as Judge Rakoff did. But they happened to get the wrong judge to try to approve what's really an illusory settlement.
Here's, by the way, what he said. Let's take quote number 3 first. The settlement does not comport with the most elementary notions of justice and morality, in that it proposes that the shareholders who were the victims of the bank's alleged misconduct now pay the penalty for that misconduct. It's just such an obvious contradiction.
Well, it's obviously a completely hollow and counterproductive settlement. And by the way, this isn't the only kind of settlement that has been proposed and even has been approved in the history of securities litigation. But this time they just got the wrong judge, and I should say the wrong public mood.
Yeah, by the way, he also quotes Oscar Wilde. I love this quote because it fits perfectly. He says, Oscar Wilde once famously said, this is quote number 2, that a cynic is someone who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. Boy, if you could ever describe a lawyer for me, or at least the wrong, you're a good kind of lawyer, Harvey, but there are a lot of wrong lawyers to whom that applies, and it certainly did in this case.
But, you know, the thing about Judge Rakoff also, he happens to be a superb writer. And this opinion is actually a piece of literature, don't you think?
I absolutely do. Now, he focused on the lawyers quite a bit in this and said, if anybody should pay, it should be the lawyers who came up with this decision, because they're the guys who wrote this crazy contradictory decision. What kind of a relationship did the lawyers between the SEC and the lawyers of Bank of America have?
Well, there's a very cozy relationship between government regulatory agencies, government prosecutorial agencies, and large corporate lawyers.
We saw that with the Madoff affair.
You sure did. And, you know, the people go from one to the other rather seamlessly. And an interesting study would be what percentage of people from these government agencies end up in Wall Street and the large law firms. I would suspect it's very high percentage. And then they sometimes go into white-collar criminal defense and negotiating pleas with their former colleagues. So it's a very tightly knit group. One does suspect, and you can read it through the line, between the lines of Judge Rakoff's opinion, that he really thought that the settlement might have been partly to protect the lawyers who were the ones who wrote these proxy statements and made these decisions, more so than even the corporate executives.
Well, and another concerned party that also has very different motives that may not apply specifically to shareholders of Bank of America, are the attorneys general who get involved in this, and in particular, Andrew Cuomo, who was looking to prosecute somebody. Describe his role in this whole affair.
Well, state prosecutors and state attorneys general have limited concurrent jurisdiction with the feds. These are primarily federal interests. But a state attorney general can always find some little corner of a transaction that he can argue comes within the purview of state law, either civil or criminal, and that he has jurisdiction, despite the fact that overwhelmingly these are federal interest cases. And so he's sort of like a bit of a barnacle on the Department of Justice and the SEC ship. But a barnacle can actually be quite annoying to the ship that it's attached to.
It sure can. Bottom line, does this judge's decision hold?
Oh, I think that the logic is absolutely impeccable, that the victims of this gigantic giveaway, really, of over $5 billion, the victims ended up paying for their victimization. I don't see how you can characterize it in any way other than what Judge Rakoff has characterized it. Can I make a prediction?
Please.
There's going to be a real settlement in this case with real money paid not by the shareholders but by others. And one of the reasons that there's going to be a real settlement is none of the parties involved in this transaction are going to really want to have a public trial reported every day in the news media concerning how this particular sausage factory operated.
Well, I hope Judge Rakoff is able to squeeze money out of the lawyers. That would make me very happy. Harvey Silverglate, the other thing that would make me happy is if everybody went out and read your book, 3 Felonies a Day, How the Feds Target the Innocent. If you're worried about prosecutorial overreach, you got to read Harvey's book. Harvey, great to see you again. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Coming up on deck, Bernanke says we're back in business. Fire up the clock for our 2-minute drill coming up. Also, text us your take about the banks. The banks that you just